Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming along tonight. I know it's a gorgeous evening out there. I'm sure some of you are keen to get out and do some training. Apologies if we disturbed your training schedule on what is an absolutely brilliant day. Tonight is all about the 2012 Manx Telecom Parish Walk. I'm delighted to have a new sponsor on board, and just before we get into the main part of the evening, I'd just like to ask Mike D, who's the MD of Manx Telecom, to come on and say a few words.
Years on the electronic timing, and when we got the opportunity this year to become full sponsor, we jumped at it. It's the biggest community event we think that the Island Community Sporting Event has, and we're really looking forward to this year.
The format for the evening is pretty straightforward. We have a panel of esteemed experts, some great knowledge of walking in general and particularly the parish walk have been assembled at great expense this evening, and they're all going to share with us their thoughts and their ideas on the parish walk, involved in the parish walk. And I think it's because we feel it's such a great event. We feel really passionate about it. We believe it is undoubtedly the best sporting event in the Isle of Man as a sporting challenge. In fact, across the UK as a sporting challenge, it's probably without equal the number of people we get out walking and clocking up miles, not just in the day itself, but in the training. You see as you drive around the island at this time of the year, people are getting our trainers on and getting out and about. Steve Taylor, who is our Parish Walk Chief Judge. Steve, again, Parish Walk previous finisher back in 1986. I hope you won't mind me saying that it was a few years ago. Steve has also vast race walking experience, and I remember doing some training with him many times over the years. Steve actually got to the Commonwealth Games in 1994, and since then has carried on with his involvement in race walking to a great degree, and I think it's to his great credit that he achieved the fantastic achievement of being appointed as the Chief Judge for the 2012 Olympics in London. So it's a pleasure to have him here, and I can't think of anyone more qualified to perhaps talk about what judges would be looking for during the parish walk, what is walking and how it would be defined. So Steve, over to you.
Thank you very much. What we're really looking for, and I think that a lot of people forget, is that it is a walking event, and I think we have a lot of people getting on the start line, and it's more a case of how fast can they travel, but it is a walking event. So if we can just simply put that what we're looking for, myself and all the other judges, is people heel and toe. And if you go through the history of race walking and all walking events, it's always about the heel and toe. And on the panel with me here, we've got some great examples, and I think if we see Jock in full flight, it's a really good example of that heel and toe. And if anybody's looking, I mean, some of the questions you ask, how can I walk faster, what can I do? It's work on your technique. And we've seen many novices come into walking over the last few years and have increased. Sean Hands started in the Winter Leagues about 10 years ago. He's now the fastest man ever around the parish walk, and he started by working on his technique. So we'll be looking for technically sound walking, not people who are shuffling, not people who are running to catch up with their friends. It doesn't matter how fast you go in the parish, the achievement is competing and getting as far as you can. And if you do get to the finish, then congratulations, but you must do it within the rules.
The person I'd like to introduce is, I don't really think he needs an introduction, and I'd probably use the terms parish walk legend these days, is Jock Waddington. Jock is a 7 times finisher of the parish walk between 2005 and 2011. I think the only person who have achieved 4 successive victories between 2008 and 2011. Reliably informed on the slide there that when he first finished in 2005, he completed the event in 21 hours and 43 minutes. And by last year's event, he got down to 15 hours and 1 minute, which is the second fastest time ever around the parish walk. So I don't think anybody is...
Yes, I didn't actually start walking or doing anything sporty actually until 2004. I was a very late developer, as it were, because I think prior to that parish walk of June 2004, the furthest I'd walked anywhere was probably between 2 pubs and a Saturday night out. So it came as a little bit of a shock to me. Is there any, in the room this evening, are there any first-time participants for this year? Yeah? Oh, quite a few. Quite a few. Well, if I may, I'd like to wind the clock back to 2004 to my first ever attempt. And as I say, prior to having a go, I remember being very irate. I used to work up near B&Q, and I live on Peel Road, so, by Hills Meadow. So it's only a couple of miles from Spring Valley Industrial Estate where I work to home. And I remember being very irate one time, probably around about December 2003, January 2004, when I, due to a lack of or miscommunication, I ended up having to walk home, and it was a distance of 2 miles, and I thought, my God, that's just ridiculous. How can I possibly walk 2 miles? Anyway, I eventually got home. But in March of that year, a friend of mine asked me if I would like to join him in having a go at the parish walk to raise money for local charities. And I was a little bit apprehensive at first, and if it hadn't, I think if I'm honest with you, if it hadn't been for the fact we want to raise money for charities, I probably would have said no. So I don't remember much of the slog. I remember getting to Peel and feeling absolutely awful. My legs were heavy, probably felt sick, I was more than likely dehydrated. There were a lot of issues, a lot of things going wrong. But I was determined not to stop at Peel. I carried on, thinking to myself, it's only 6 miles to Carmichael. I should be able to do that quite easily. And I thought, we'll see how I feel at Carmichael, because then it's only 2 miles to Ballaugh. So I was heading out round about the White Strand area, and there was two chaps in front of me who had about 20 years on me, so they must have been in their 60s. I thought, I'll catch these boys up. But I never did. In fact, they pulled away from me, because I was starting to go backwards at this point. And when I got to Carmichael, I just couldn't take another step. My legs had seized. Mentally, I was just destroyed. But the whole, so that was it. So that was my first attempt at the parish walk. I got 39 miles to Carmichael, and I couldn't walk another step. So the analysis of that was, well, first of all, I was bitterly disappointed, because, as I said, there was no doubt in my mind that I wasn't going to be able to finish it. The fact that less than 100 people every year finished it, out of the thousands that actually started, never really hadn't crossed my mind. But as I say, I was very arrogant, I think is probably the right word. I'm thinking, yes, I can do this, it's not going to be a problem. So I started to analyse what went wrong. Okay, shoes. I had an old pair of trainers which I'd been knocking about in and cut the grass with for years probably. I had a cotton t-shirt on. I had an old pair of like swimming shorts, because I had no proper sports gear, as I say. I had absolutely no technique. Some of the guys I trained with will probably say that's still true. I was eating the wrong foods, I was drinking the wrong liquids. So those 5 things there is essentially a recipe for disaster. And if you throw into the walk, that's 39.2 miles. It's essentially exactly the same distance to Carmichael in the parish route as the end-to-end route is from start to finish. I thought, well, if I can walk to Carmichael in the parish, I can do the end-to-end, so I had to go with that. The time in the parish walk to Carmichael, incidentally, was 9 hours, almost exactly to the minute. My time in the end-to-end, and I did finish it, was 9 hours and 26 minutes. So it actually took me 26 minutes longer to cover the same distance. So this, again, started playing on my mind. I was thinking, well, what on earth is going wrong? And it was at this point that I joined a club. I met Alan Callow, I think, for the first time, and started to do some training. I started to meet like-minded people, and go out training with like-minded people regularly, not on my own, because training on your own may be convenient, but you're never going to push yourself as much as you would if you're chasing somebody or being chased by others who are as good as or perhaps better than you.
Expert is Maureen Moffat. Again, Maureen, an awful lot of experience in the parish walk, 6 times finisher, was second in 2010 and surpassed that to go one better last year, so the ladies winner in 18 hours and 19 minutes. Maureen's got a faster time than me around the parish walk, so I'm very envious. 17 hours and 43 minutes. And I guess I'd be interested to hear, Maureen, whether your experience was similar to Jock's, with how you started out, whether you see things differently from a lady's perspective, perhaps, in the parish walk.
Well, I actually started, my friend had a really bad accident, and we started going to the gym to keep company, and a group of girls decided to want to do the parish walk, and that's how I started. I just wanted to get to Peel, and I got to Derby. I thought, oh, really enjoyed it. My feet were in bits, absolutely. As Jock said, I didn't have the right trainers, didn't put a great deal of thought into it, but I loved it. Next year I thought, right, try and go for the finish. That didn't work. Had a disastrous time really, got dehydrated and everything. Third time lucky, I thought. And I did, yes, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I have to say, my feet and everything, I put thought in, wore the right clothing, drank properly, ate properly, and just carried on from there, really.
As we've gone along, and certainly when I was walking, you know, I valued Alan's advice tremendously as a race walking coach. Again, vast experience, competed at the 1974 Commonwealth Games and finished the parish walk himself in 1982. So as you can see, that the panel here have all got experience not only in knowledge of walking but as the parish walk itself. So Alan, would you give us some thoughts on perhaps on training tips and general fitness, and how you perhaps advise the audience to, if they haven't started yet, I hope some people here have started, but if they haven't started, you know, what should we be looking at doing to get us going?
I think the key for anybody, whether you've got great experience or you're newcomers, is to be honest as to where you are now and where you can be by June. You can't suddenly become Superman in that short time if you're just starting from scratch. So you've got to basically say, I've got, what is 3 months now, isn't it? And sensibly and gradually improve your fitness. Work on the skills. Walking, I think Jock shows it very well, is a very skillful event. Jock is very relaxed, he's got easy movements and a nice rhythmatic technique. Now, I think to a certain extent you develop this, but you did start off with a reasonably good technique just at the start. But that doesn't mean that there's no one here who can't develop good race walking technique. I don't think I can quite tell you how to do it tonight. It probably will take quite a reasonable length of time for most people. But the big advice is that the better your technique, the more efficient you are, the more you'll be able to enjoy the walk and be more successful at it. The fitness side of it is where you're starting and where you can be by then. Overtrain and you're probably tired on the line. You're probably better slightly undertrained and be fresh. For the parish walk, you need to do walking obviously, but I always recommend general all-round fitness as well, because you're going to have to put up with a lot of discomfort. And your general fitness in achieving your goals will keep you going at the same time as your walking fitness. So it all depends where you are. There's people who can go out and walk hard for 25 miles. There's other people who 2 or 3 miles is a good goal. I think basically Jock mentioned how you would achieve it in his early starting at it, doing a little bit more.
The point that's come up is the mental aspects, you know, getting the mind right, getting the determination right. And in my role in the parish walk, I think every year I see some people who give up when they could carry on. I've got a blister on my little toe and I stop sort of attitude. And I see some people who should give up, but they don't. And I think it's getting the balance right between the two. So just before we go on to Robin, I'm going to conduct a bit of a survey here amongst the panel. and ask them just to jot down what they think is the parish walk, what percentage is physical and what percentage is mental, if they were balancing that out.
Well, I think this is a lot of it is mental. I can't. I'm trying to put a percentage down. I can't. It is. I mean, you can be on your last legs if your mind is focused. You can.
Yeah.
You can do it.
I'd say it changes through the race. And for me, when I competed, I walked all the way with my best friend. And I would say from Andreas, I'm just trying to think where he was shouting at me most. From Andreas in, after that, it was a mental thing. I wanted to finish the parish. And from then on in, it was just a question of mind over matter. We were aching.
Well, I can only go on my own personal experience, because I didn't want to do it again. I just wanted to do it. And that was my preparation, basically. I was reasonably fit, but my mind was not going to let me stop.
I think it's very decided on the mental aspect of it. I've put 60-40.